start recording. All right, there we go. So hi, everybody. Tonight is our last class, and we are just wrapping everything up. So I want to take a look at our Moodle page, just show you what we have going on. I've been following your discussions, everything. It's just really exciting to me. I think you guys are doing a great job. But let's take a look at the Moodle page, and then we'll discuss some things, and then I will take any questions that you have, and we'll get started from there. Okay, so can you guys see our Moodle page where it says, aha, thank you, Shelby. I always count on Shelby to show me, so there we go. So down here in week 8, like it says, it's the final week of class, and the writing assignment is to write the abstract for your paper, which I've been reading the discussion boards, like I said, and it seems like many of you are already working on that. We don't have any new material this week, so there's no new reading assignment. There's no real assignment in terms of watching a lecture, except for just this, which is getting us ready to go. And then you will submit your final paper. Now, I put an abstract example here, and the one thing I wanted to say was somebody pointed out, once again, the chats were really, really good, but somebody pointed out that this abstract was quite long compared to what they were used to. And so let me see, I just want to share my screen again here. There we go. Okay, so this was the abstract that I put up on the Moodle page. And I was thinking I put up the abstract from my dissertation, but I didn't. This is from a different paper. This is from a paper that I presented at the American Society of Engineering Educators a couple of years ago when we were just forming it. But so it is a pretty long abstract. One point that I wanted to make, if you've worked in APA 7 format before, the abstracts were always single spaced. Now they're double spaced. Also, you do not indent the abstract, and you write it as a single paragraph. So those are some of the things. But 100 words for a paper, a research paper like you're doing, is, if you can summarize your work in 100 words, that is terrific. But 350 is sort of the maximum. So here on the screen, once again on your Moodle page, you'll see that I've written the assembly, or the sections of the paper. And because you've been writing for several weeks, you'll have most of these sections either complete or nearly complete. Now, the other thing I wanted to do, you'll notice it says submit your final paper no later than March 12th. And that is made for television. That's not real as far as I'm concerned. I just want to show you the email that I had gotten from our registrar about when deadlines the grades are due. So first of all, this is, it's Monday is not March 22nd. Monday is March 20th. But the deadline that I have from our registrar is Wednesday, March 22nd. So I will accept anything up through, I would say, 8 a.m. on Tuesday, March 21st. So I don't want to imply that you have to work over spring break, because if you get it done by Friday or Sunday, that's fantastic. But I'm going to be going on a trip with a group of students and community members over spring break. So as far as I'm concerned, you can have however much or all of spring break that you need. And I want to get back on Monday. If you have questions, I'll spend some time going over that stuff with you, and then we'll get you squared away, and you can get it to me by Tuesday morning, and I would be able to grade it and get that graded on time. The other thing I checked was I went to my Calendly page just to make sure this is what it looks like to me. This isn't, I know what it looks like to you, but you can see that this week I have a lot of available time. So if you need to visit with me, please set an appointment. Next week, I will not be available, but then coming back on the 20th, I have lots of availability again. So I just want to reiterate that you have that extra time if you need it, and also that I have a lot of time to help you if I can get you squared away. All right. So having said all that, tell me what questions you have for me.
I guess I just want to clarify, at this point, you have seen the bulk of our papers, correct? There's not some big sneaky section hiding. You've seen most of it. It's just like abstract and lit review that we haven't turned in at this point. Okay, just making sure I didn't miss something massive and ruin my paper.
No, you sure didn't. And I really loved the discussion. I was just reading through it today. I didn't grade the discussion about the abstract, but boy, there were some really good pointers, you know, just how, and how the conclusion is sort of that piece where you can get a little philosophical about it, you know, but you're really, after you write the literature review and the methods and the results, that is like the meat of your paper. You know what I mean? The introduction is that personal piece or something that kind of hooks people and gets them interested. Then you write those three pieces. Then the conclusion just sort of reiterates in a different way the introduction. It's sort of a top down to top. Somebody described it, which was really great. And then the abstract is just, and I asked you to write that last. I think that's pretty common. I know for me, when I write, I don't necessarily know exactly what my paper means until I'm done with it. You know what I mean? It's like I get some meaning out of the writing. So after you write the abstract, then you're home free. So you guys have done the bulk of the work. Absolutely. No sneaky, no nothing. So. All right. Oh, Carrie Hunter, you have your hand up.
Hello.
Hi.
So references versus annotated bibliography, what do you want? Do you just want us to put out the references without the extra?
That is correct. That's
okay.
Exactly correct. So if you take your annotated bibliography, the paragraphs that you would just cite, right? So you would put, like, instead of putting the whole reference, you would, like, you have a paragraph that you've written and you would say in parentheses, Hunter, 2019, you know, or Hunter in 2019 said, or whatever, like that. But you're just going to take that annotated bibliography, those paragraphs that you wrote, and any other sources that you used, and turn it into a narrative form. But there's really no new information there unless you had to pick up some more references, you know, that you would want to write about. But everything that you reference in the paper has to be addressed in the literature review, even if it's only a sentence or two. Then the citation or the references themselves, the whole, you know, Hunter KW 2019 title, blah, blah, blah. That all goes at the very end of the paper in the reference section.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, great question. What else do you guys want to know? Yes, Karen? Oh, you're muted, darling. I can't hear you. There she is.
I have a stupid question. Did I miss doing the lit review?
I don't think so. Let me look. Let me look. Because you did an annotated bibliography.
Okay, that's what you're calling the lit review?
The lit review is part of the annotated bibliography. The annotated bibliography, you take your annotated bibliography and you take the paragraphs that you've written and you just turn it into a narrative form. So, you know, just turn it into paragraphs that sort of flow. Okay. That's your lit review. Then the citations, you know, the G, Karen 2019 title, blah, 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 that goes into your reference section at the end. So the annotated bibliography is 90% what you will need for your lit review, and then all of what you'll need for your reference section.
Okay. And if we didn't use a reference that we had in our annotated bibliography, we don't put it in the references.
That's correct.
Only if we used it. Okay.
You got it. Very nice. That's a really good question, because I know sometimes it's like it gets a little well, the word I want to use is slippery, but I don't think that's the right word. It's like sometimes you read stuff and then you find that you go down a different path, you know. So that definitely is something that happens, where you have some stuff you go, oh, I didn't really use this, or, you know, sometimes people, this is where it gets slippery. Sometimes people will want to cite something, so they'll kind of just like work it in as a sentence when it's not really maybe something that was really, that your paper was really written on. But there's nothing wrong with that. But everything that all of the documents that you use in your paper need to be in the literature review.
Right, and I had a question on that. Is it okay if some of those references aren't cited specifically in the paper? Because I have some things that I read that
Informed your
kind of
paper?
informed the general culture and the background of people returning to school, but weren't specific to mothers. And so
Right.
I don't have a specific place that I cited it, but reading those gave me good information that I could then use as background for understanding information about the mother specific articles.
Yes, you would still cite them in your literature review and they'd be in your reference page, but you wouldn't necessarily say like on page 19 of this, you would just say part of this discussion was informed from Shelby Moore 2019 or from S Moore 2019 and Courtney Allen, comma C, 2012, and then you might just write a little sentence about how that informed, but I mean, yes, you're not really like quoting a page or chapter and verse, but if it's been heavily informed by it, not heavily, but if it's been informed by it, I always think it's a good idea to include it, because that kind of can develop the flavor of your paper. So I think that's really important, because I understand what you're saying too, is that sometimes a literature review can sort of look really clinical. It's just like this person said this and this person said this. And so when you have those things just sort of are infused in your paper, it can help it give it body, so I think that works. But everything, that's a real judgment call, isn't it? I mean, if you quote something, you definitely have to cite it and put it in your lit review. If you've been informed by it, you may think, well, maybe that was my thought, that's something I came up with before. That's sort of a gray area. And it's sort of up to you at this point, how you want to handle that. But I like to put all of it in there because then I look at my references and I think what a good job I did. So.
After you were just discussing the conclusion,
Yes.
reiterating the introduction, I did not do, can we kind of restructure our conclusions that we submitted?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
So like when I said that, I don't mean like you're reiterating it exactly. I think maybe I misspoke, but like, let me show you. I wrote sort of so when this is interesting or not in, I mean, maybe I'm not saying what I wrote was interesting. I'm just saying it's interesting based on this conversation. So when I wrote the conclusion to this paper, okay, I had written this paper in the summer, over summer, and then that December or November or December, Joan Didion passed away. So I was just reading a lot of her stuff, and she's not a researcher. She was a journalist and a sort of a spokesman for a certain era of time. But when she died, I was thinking about her all the time. Well, I can't really quote her in the body of my paper. And that's why I quoted her here, because what I did was I mean, the question you're asking, I think, is just really important. And it kind of goes along with what Shelby was asking, is that I felt like after the fact that my whole paper as archival research in general was just infused by this desire to tell a story, to like take these facts. And that's what Didion always did. She just took a bunch of facts and wove them together into something that was just kind of magnificent. And so I certainly don't think what I wove was magnificent, but what I mean is I was trying to tell a story. I was trying to tell a story in this case about how computer science evolved in the state of Wyoming. So not quite as glorious as the 60s at Haight-Ashbury in California, but a story nonetheless. And so when I say it's not like you just reiterate it, but you're doing the same thing. It's like if you write a good research paper, you're really saying the same thing over and over again 3 to 6 times. So the introduction is one way of saying it, and then the conclusion is another way of saying it. So I guess I would say the introduction is really like, this is an idea that I had, and this is what I want to write about. These are the questions I had. That's where you present your research question. And then the conclusion, you say, I had this research question, and I did these things, And now I'm thinking these things about it. And based on my literature search, my methods lead me to these conclusions. So do you see what I mean? Not really like reiterate. That was probably way overstepping when I said that. So yeah. So you guys are asking great questions. This is hey, yeah, Ronnie.
When will you grade our conclusions and results so we could
Oh.
figure out how far off base we are?
I'll get them graded this week. So if you have them turned in, I will get them graded this week. I looked at the Moodle page and many of you had already turned them in. I think maybe 15 or so people had already turned them in. So yeah, 15. So I have enough to grade. There's just a couple of people that haven't done it yet. So I always just like to give them like one more day, you know, but I don't know if it's, I'm actually in Powell and I'm going to be in Powell all week. So, so I'll be here like every day. I pretend like I'm an accountant, you know, when I'm here, I come to work at 8 and I go to stay here till 6 and, you know, have an hour for lunch or whatever. So, so I'll be here all week and I will get them graded. So I'll get them back to you by like Wednesday. And then if you want to get them assembled by this weekend, you'll have time to do that. And then I would suggest, you don't have to do this, but I would suggest after you get all those pieces put together, give it a day, you know, don't read it for a day. This is just a suggestion. And then pick it up and read it again. And you might really be gratified by the paper that you've written, or you might think, I need this little transition here. You know what I mean? But if you give yourself a day, sometimes that will happen. And once again, I said that on the paper that I was just showing you that was called Coding is the New Coal. I was talking about, I realized after I read the paper, after I did this, that I'd never really talked about what coal means to Wyoming and what, I mean, economically, and what people hope computer science will mean to Wyoming. You know, I mean, to me, it was so obvious because of what I do for a living, but it was like, after I read it, I was like, oh, I never really came out and said what that means, you know? So that's the kind of thing that can happen if you give yourself a day and read it. So, and so I'd rather have you, sometimes you got to get something off your desk. I know sometimes it's like gratifying to just like get rid of it, you know, get it out there, put it in the can, get out there. But if you have, I'd rather you take an extra day or an extra couple of days if that's available to you to do. So, yeah. So, Miss Carrie.
Sorry, I'm a question person today.
Good, great.
How should we title this? I know that I had a totally different title for my intro. Is this going to be a title that we would insert our question, our final question in, or how should we title it?
Right, titles are a funny deal. It's sort of, after you write the abstract, you don't have to have your question in it. You can, you know, I mean, that would be one thing, but you sort of, after you write, you know, somebody had said something about how in the old days, it was really fun. I mean, it was like you wanted a short paper, and then one of your classmates realized that writing a short paper was actually really harder than writing a long paper in some ways, and being concise was really a trick. So that title is just something that you want to sort of capture the flavor of what you're trying to write about, you know, and it doesn't have to be highly scientific. But like, for example, I told you the paper that that I had written, the one that I gave you that conclusion for was called Coding is the New Coal. I have another paper that I wrote that I realized after I wrote it was about how women talk themselves out of the idea that they're good at math. And so one of my friends suggested to me that I call it I'm Not Good at Math, she said, which I thought was really clever. It's a very quantitative paper. It's a very boring and dry and strange little paper, but you know, I thought it had this really cool title, and I can say that because I didn't write it myself. So you can have anything that sort of is descriptive, you know, like I know that you're looking at clinical data, and you might say, I mean, you could do something like risks associated with clinical trials for this particular, you know, this particular condition. You know, you could do that, or you could do something lighter. So it's just, titles are just sort of something that describes the paper, but it can be really serious, or it can be a little bit more, a little broader too. So
So we could be kind of creative a little
yes,
bit with our titles.
yes, like jumping out of a very good airplane, or perfectly good airplane, right? Or something like that. So, right, exactly. So, excellent questions. Excellent. I love it. And what other questions do you guys have? What would you like to know? Am I going to grade you easily? Yes, if you, I'm not easily, but you guys have all done quality work. So I'm very hopeful. I'm not a stickler for time. I'm not a stickler for deadlines. I'd rather have a great paper that's a little bit late. You're not going to lose any credit for any of that. So, and if you have any questions, there's nothing that's off limits in terms of the writing process or the analysis, any of it. There's nothing off limits. So feel free, if you have a question. I would probably suspect your other classmates have that same question. So, you know, you might think you're the only one in the world, but I really, from this side of the desk, I doubt that very much. So ask away.
So you said that at least 10 pages, is that correct?
Yes, approximately 10 pages would be good.
What if someone had 8 pages?
It'd be fine. I'm
Okay.
not gonna, yeah. If you had 4 pages, I might be like, you know, that's, yeah, but no, I think, yeah, I think if you can say everything you need, and you know, the other thing, Carrie, is your paper it's not fully quantitative, but it's very quantitative, and quantitative papers tend to be a lot shorter than qual, you know,
Okay.
so that would not surprise me in any way.
Okay, thank you. I have more than 8 pages, but I was just curious.
Yep, you're gonna be good. So, all right.
I might only have like 8 pages, so.
All right. Well, that's okay. So you're all good. So it's,
I
you
asked
know,
your question for you.
yes.
Thanks. On our last pieces that we submitted, are we going to be graded pretty heavily on like grammar and punctuation? 'Cause
No, no. What I'd love you to do, Ronnie, if at the end, not on the pieces, but like when you get the whole thing done, run it through Grammarly, you know, or I mean, I'm not insisting on that, you know, I'm not insisting on Turnitin, I'm not insisting on Grammarly, but you know, you can really help yourself out if you'll do that too, you know, so I would suggest it. But I'm an engineer, so I'm not a maven of where the comma goes. So me grading you on it would be dishonest or disingenuous. Maybe not dishonest, it would be disingenuous of me. So there you go.
Yeah, because my conclusion's pretty unpolished right now. And I was kind of embarrassed to turn it in.
So, well, if I see anything that I think I can help you with, like this is probably, you know, a tendency I have when I write that I always have to have somebody to do. It's like, I will write 1-sentence paragraphs, which is a terrible idea. But, you know, I feel like, well, I said everything I wanted to say and now I want to start a new paragraph. It's like, that is just a terrible idea. But yeah, so if I see something like that, I'll point it out to you and give you the opportunity to fix it. But I'm not an English major. So my level of knowledge of the details of written English are not like that. So
I wanted to double check for the references. We're pulling out the annotations from the bibliography and just having the references, and then those paragraphs are informing our lit review.
you got it.
Okay, just wanted to be clear, the paragraph should leave the references.
Right. Yes, exactly. And yeah, I was gonna say I'll find a reference section and I'll just show you what it looks like. I'll put an example up so that you won't be stabbing in, you know, dancing in the dark, so to speak. So I'll put one up so that you can see it. But yep, what you've described is exactly correct. They're alphabetical, and if you have 2 by the same author, you put them in chronological order. That's not really typical on a paper like this, but you know, there's some fields like professional development for teachers, that there's a foundational author named, her last name is Laux Horsley. And so it's just really common that you might have 3 or 4 of her references. So you have to put them by the year. So, but first alphabetically, then chronologically. So, but I don't think that's gonna be a problem, so. Okay, what else,
One-
guys? Ah, there he is.
Here I am. So like the intro that we wrote in week 1,
Yes,
can that be like the bulk of our intro?
absolutely. If you feel like, I mean, I would hope, well, I shouldn't say hope, not like I should hope so, but I mean, it would be awesome if you took an idea, and I think you really did, Ronnie, and you carried it through the whole time. You know, some people swayed a little bit, went a little farther afield, but I was just thinking about your work. I definitely think with yours, it would be, you know, pretty complete and pretty targeted. So, because you stuck with a really, you know, one of the things that happens when we write, and I do the same thing, is like a lot of times you just have too broad of a topic, you know, and so if you have an introduction that goes all over here and then you pared it down over here, you'd probably want to go back and rework your intro. But I don't see anything like that in your introduction that I can think of. So I'm giving myself a lot of credit for holding everything in my head, but I'm pretty sure I'm right on that. So
Yeah, there was a lot of times I wanted to jump ship and do a different topic, but I
yes.
had so much work done into this that I didn't
Well,
want to switch.
and you know, that's a really good point too, because whenever you write, I mean, some people chose topics here that were really near and dear to their hearts, and those are very good topics, but sometimes it's easier if you choose a moment in time, or even if you just choose something that's vaguely interesting to you, you know. And sometimes if you just love something, and I'm speaking for myself, not for anyone in this class, sometimes if you love something, it's just really hard to like get around it, because it's like every single thing brings you to, oh, there's this other thing, you know, this other thing. And so yeah, but I understand that too. And then I also just think it's just sort of the natural progression of things that you have to, you just have to hate your paper a little bit by the time you're done with it. You just have to. So if you've been just like, I would just look at stuff and I would just be like, oh, I just can't even believe I ever did this. What was I thinking, you know? But then you put it away for a couple of days and you find something that's redeeming again. So, but all of you have very good papers. Nobody has an irredeemable paper at all. So I'm just saying that from my own immersion in your work. So you're all doing great. So yeah. What else can I tell you guys? All right. Well, you guys have been just super. This has been, I mean, really for me, this has been a fantastic experience. I have enjoyed this. This has been a really good class for me to teach, and I've really enjoyed it. Like I said, I hope you'll make an appointment with me if you need anything between now and the end. And if I don't answer you over spring break, like I said, it's just because I'm not here. So so I will be back after spring break, and I'll be available again for the rest of the semester. And I'll look forward to, I'll get your results and conclusions graded this week by like Wednesday. I'll put up an example of a reference section also by Wednesday, and then I'll have my Calendly open. So if you need me, get a hold of me. All right. All right. Well, you guys have a wonderful evening. It's great to see you all. You guys take
Thank
care.
you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Astrid.
Thank you.